Okay, well, this is the first time I've done something live. So let's see what happens. And hopefully I don't mess anything up too bad. What I'm going to be doing is making a little door. And I have a reference. Last year I went to Morocco on a little trip, and we saw a bunch of these really cool doors. And so I took a bunch of pictures of doors, and here's one that I thought was especially cool. And so I've done a version of this before without the lights, and I thought I'd do a version with these little lamps that I thought was a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is I have the door that I 3D printed, and I already wired some stuff up because I figured that would be a little annoying to do live. I have the door, I have this door setting that you can see, and it's based off of this little reference that I'll leave up there for a little while. And I went to the thrift store and bought this little picture frame, and I figure I'll put it into here and then I can put it on the wall. So I've also printed a few little parts for this frame so the door will go into this frame, and then it will go into that frame, and then it'll hang on the wall. So in a little bit, hopefully that will all work out. Put this stuff over here. I'm going to start by painting this door, and it's going to be pretty simple. There's nothing particularly crazy about painting this. It's a fairly straightforward color, but I'm going to tape off the little LEDs so that I don't cover over them too much here before we get started. So everything in Morocco was this kind of reddish tone. It felt like the dust in Marrakesh, at least, had this kind of red undertone to it, which I thought was really lovely. But it's a little hard of a color to recreate, I found, it because it's not pink. It's kind of this brown red. And what I'm going to do is kind of do an undertone of a darker red and then paint white, brush white on top of it instead of just going pink. So I feel like if you mix it to start out too pink, it ends up just being pink. And there's something kind of not dusty about it if you just go pink. So start with this. I'm going to water it down a little bit because it is miniature paint, so it's pretty strong. And then sometimes I kind of like to not actually mix it too well. If I mix it too well, it becomes a really even color, and I don't want it to be even. It's nice when it's a little bit messy. So we'll just start by laying some color in. Maybe this will be fun closer up. Let me see if I can make that happen. Let's get close. That's fun. I hope everyone is having a nice Friday. I've had a nice Friday. So, if anyone is just joining and seeing this and wondering what I'm doing, I'm laying in this kind of base coat here. And I want it to be messy, so some areas are going to be a lot more colorful than others, and it's all going to get toned down once we kind of put a bunch of dust onto it. But this is a door. This is a picture I took last year in Marrakesh, which is a really nice place, Marrakesh. Had a good time. And now that I'm looking at this door, I really feel like I should have made a little cat or something to set in this door frame, because that would really make this feel like Marrakesh. We saw a little cat, because there were a lot of cats in Marrakesh. This is, I've mentioned this before, but this is the first time I've done a live stream of something like this. And partly the reason that I'm doing this, I guess, is because my friend told me that I should. And I guess TikTok is shutting down or something, so now or never, right? It's kind of fun. So the way that I made this piece is that I looked at that reference image that I took and brought it into Blender and made it in Blender, 3D modeled everything, and then 3D printed it. And so I have this little 3D print. Excuse me. And that's how I got a lot of these bricks here. And a lot of times when I do something like this, I might just do it by hand, but it's kind of nice to have all the bricks a little more uniform, and makes it so that if I want to make another one, it's easier to spend more time painting instead of modeling if that's what I feel like doing. Again, I'm really trying to be blotchy and messy here, because that's kind of how it is in real life. It's not all even tones. Getting a little on my hands. You know what? I'm just gonna be careful and not paint the LEDs, but the tape is getting annoying, so it goes away. So I have this nice kind of base of red, and I'm gonna start just layering in some more colors, more tones, because I want more tones in there. I want there to be more stuff. You can see here, I'm just gonna take my brush and just do this so that even within the brush stroke, there's kind of a variation of colors. And again, this might look dramatic, but it gets toned down once everything gets all the dust and everything else on it. It was really wonderful seeing all of the interesting brickwork throughout Marrakesh. There's some patterns that we started to see over and over again, but in general, many buildings seem like they had their own style. Whether it was this door that was kind of incredible in its kind of hooped nature here. If anybody has any questions, I guess you could type them in the chat. But yeah, again, this is my first time streaming something, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just hanging out on a Friday night. I'm currently in Portland, Oregon. This is where this is taking place. But again, this door was photographed last year in Marrakesh. Okay, I'm liking these undertones here. It's really nice. It's got a nice texture to it. Again, it looks a lot crazier than the reference, but it will end up being kind of dusted down. So I'm gonna let that dry for a second here, and it's not gonna take very long. I'm gonna start on this door here. I think there's something interesting to point out about this door. I don't know if you can see the reference, but there's kind of doors inside of doors, and this was pretty common in a lot of these larger doors in Morocco. But there's these two large doors, and they open. They're on hinges, but they don't open all the time. If you want to just go in and out, there's these two small doors, and the small doors are about the size, a little smaller than a regular door that I would encounter in the US. And so if you'd imagine, I would say, 6 feet is probably like there on the door. So they're a little shorter than regular doors, but these are much larger. I thought it was kind of a fun little thing that we encountered. This door is kind of a black color, but it has this sort of like bluish undertone, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just part of the paint, and how it aged or something, but it had this sort of blue undertone, and I'm going to accentuate that because I thought it was really nice. So this is going to be kind of like a dark blue door more than it is going to be just black. So put some blue down. I'm not really going to fully wash my brush because I kind of like, again, how some of the colors start to mix and how they're not quite even. It really makes everything to me feel a little more lived in. So, got that blue undertone, and it might just kind of look like it's turning into one color, and it is turning into one color. But I think that, as we start to layer some colors onto it, the detail will start to pop all the time. And that I took modeling this before the 3D print will hopefully help in creating some depth to it. So I'm going to set that side to dry just a little bit. I'm going to pick this guy back up, and let's dip that in my tea. I'm going to pull the blue out of this brush now as I go back to the rest of the door frame. What's it doing? Okay, so now that this has started to dry just a little, it's still wet, which I'm fine with because I like how things kind of mix and blend. I'm going to start layering some more kind of dusty tones to this, and that'll get us a little bit closer to that pinkish shade. Let's see. And almost simply because I don't want to just have a single color on my brush, again, I'm going to be using two colors here, like this, and I'm just going to pull them both on the brush, and I'm going to kind of like get rid of most of that so that I don't have a whole lot of paint in the brush. Just kind of like waste some of it over there. And I'm just kind of slowly building it up, lightening it up, and I'm going a little bit lighter on the water so it doesn't soak in as much to the in-between, to the like kind of grout area of the brick. And it's like starting to accentuate the bricks more than I think it did in real life, but I think that it's more interesting. Just going very light here because I want to keep that lighter tone just on the edges. And if it's okay if some of it gets down and below. But I want to keep that contrast. And painting also, it helps if I paint kind of against the grain. So if I would paint this way, the bristles would get into some of those lines. But if I paint this way or at a 45, it kind of helps to leave some of those little in-between areas darker. Sometimes I can't avoid it though, because I want to get in there. You really see that those bricks showing up with this lighter color now. Before it did really start to look like a wash of, deep red and black. But you see those kind of in between that lines the brick. It's turning out kind of nice, I think. I've done worse. Again, trying to keep it messy. Exaggerating, I think, the flaws, because when it's so tiny like this, if you make it perfect, I think it just gets a little boring. That's nice. So I'm intentionally not painting these pieces here, are my little lampposts, and I'll send that up. He's loose in a good way. Because I'm going to paint these more of a copper tone. I think that will be nice. All right, our door over here has dried enough. I'm going to put a little bit of a kind of black onto it just to darken it up just a little more, because I think it's a little too blue. This black will actually, since I've kind of watered it down a little bit, will dry a little more transparent than what it looks like it's going on. So it looks like I'm just undoing all of that nice blue, but it'll be there. And I'm gonna purposefully accentuate just a few little areas that I want it to be darker. So I'm gonna load up a little more of this undiluted black that I dropped down here and put it here and here. this off to dry again. It looks like just a black cube and it's boring, but it'll get interesting. I promise. All right, back to the door. And it's really starting to look close to the tone that I want. We'll keep going. We'll go a little bit lighter here with it. Yeah. I'm having fun with this door. I feel like, you know, I have a folder on my computer now of, I don't know, 20 different doors that are my top 20 doors that I saw in Marrakesh and around Morocco. And I kind of want to make like a whole wall of these little things in the apartment and just cover them. Because again, if you didn't see the beginning of this, the plan is that we're going to take this piece and I'll zoom out a little bit here. We're going to take this piece and we're going to put it inside of a frame. So it will live in a frame on the wall. And I'm kind of debating I might paint this frame. I got it at the thrift store for $5, which is wonderful. But I might paint it because that sounds fun. There's certain colors that I think were all over Marrakesh and Morocco. And there's this red, but there's also this blue, like really wonderful tones of blue and yellow. And I'm trying to think of how I might incorporate those without going too overboard. But in the meantime, we will. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of start to do something that's sort of a version of dry brushing, but it's not very dry. I'm going to like take this paint and I'm just going to waste most of it. So there's barely any on there anymore. And then I'm going to take the door and you'll see again, I'm going to run the opposite direction of the detail. And it's, let it dry a little too long. It's just going to really pull it out. So you can see kind of one side to the other the difference that these final coats are making here. So this is before and this is after, and it still has that reddish feel, but it's starting to kind of tone down. I think I'm going too brown, so I'm going to mix some white into this. Make it a little more neutral of a top coat. And I'm going to water it down just a little bit, which sounds like it's the opposite of what I would want dry brushing, but I will just be lighter with it. It's too wet. There we go. And then I'm just going really light because I don't want it to sink in too much. And it is sinking in a little too much in this area right here, but I'll come back to that. And I'll just work my way around. Again, making sure not to go with the detail, go kind of 45 degrees or opposite of it. This might be going on a little too thick, but kind of like it. For anyone that's just joining, this is a door that I saw in Marrakesh last year, and one of many doors they say that, you wouldn't download a car or whatever, but I feel like I kind of, sometimes when I'm traveling, I feel like I'm stealing bits of it when I come back and I 3D print it. It feels tangible again to me. This is the first time I've done something kind of almost two-dimensional like this. I mean, it is three-dimensional, but it's a door frame and a door. It doesn't open. You can't see what's inside. And it's interesting because I work mostly in things that are a bit more three-dimensional, that have a lot of depth and more depth than they do width or height. And this is more width and height than it is depth. So it's kind of playing with different things. It's forcing me to think about different things when thinking about designing it, even though, I didn't do that much on the design side. It's like somebody else designed this door. But in terms of the framing of it and everything else. Excuse me. I'm drinking this tea as I'm doing this. That's a mint tea. And it's something that I drink. Oh, I don't know if you heard my stomach there. It really grumbled. Something that we drank a lot in Morocco. Everywhere. Everyone wanted to give us mint tea. And it was very pleasant. I think it was the second night we were there. We went down to one of the major markets in Marrakesh, and it's pretty touristy, and we had a tour guide. We were told that we should probably get a tour guide for the first day, so we had a tour guide, and he knew some folks at the market, and they were playing some music and hanging out, and he was like, well, if you give those guys a little bit of money, and then you can take their picture and sit down and play some music with them. We're like, okay, sure. Sounds a little touristy, but that's fine. And we sat down and gave them a little bit of money, and they handed us some drums, and they said, all right, it's your turn. And I'd certainly made a fool of myself because I'm whiter than I look, I think. And that's really saying something. They gave us this tea. They were like, okay, you've played drums with us, and they gave us this tea. And they're out in the middle of the market. They're not in any sort of kitchen of any sorts. And they hand me a cup, and I'm like, thanks so much. Drink from the cup. And then I see the next group of folks comes up, says hi, and I hand them the same cup, and they drink from the same cup. And the next group of folks come, and they hand them the same cup, and they drink from the same cup. So we're all kind of related in Morocco, I think, in one way or another. Let's go right in here. There we go. I wish that I had had more time. I was only in Marrakesh for, I think it was 5 days. It's a lovely city. Morocco in general, I thought was very, very nice. It's my first time in Northern Africa. Met a lot of nice people. And I would absolutely go back. If I would go back, I think I would go for longer, and I would try to take some more time traveling outside of the major cities. Okay, so I'm getting pretty happy with where this is. I might lighten it up just a little bit more, and I am going to add just a tiny bit of red. I know I said earlier I wasn't going to do this, but I am going to do this. I'm going to add a little bit of red into this white, just a tiny bit. Because red as a color in paint, especially when mixed with white, is very overpowering. So just a little bit. There we go. That's nice. I'm going to make a little bit more of this, and then I'm going to let it dry for a second because it's a little too watery. I think I added too much water. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah, that'll be nice. Okay. Okay. Sometimes it feels like the layers are so light I'm barely doing anything, but maybe that's true, but it's kind of the process of just slowly layering something up instead of just doing it in big wash. I wish I could give you more information about this very specific door, but I didn't look it up. It is in the... This is in the southwest corner of the Medina, if anyone wants to correct me. You can go on Google Maps and zoom around and find it probably. If anyone is planning on going to Morocco, then I would recommend it. It's a nice place. If you're staying in the Medina in Marrakesh, find yourself a little riad. It's basically like a small, something in between a hotel and an Airbnb. They're usually houses. They usually have a couple stories with different people staying in them. Sometimes there's a little pool at the bottom. Most of the rooms are facing in and away from the street, so they're quiet. They usually have a rooftop or something like that. And we had a lot of fun. The folks that were running the riad was owned by someone else, but the folks that were running it were some younger guys, and made friends with them. And I was traveling with my now ex, she had she brought Monopoly Deal, and we ended up playing a lot of Monopoly Deal with the folks at the Riad on the last day that we were there. And it's a fun game. It's a nice game to stick in your bag and be an alternative to other card games if you are looking for a not bringing the entire Monopoly set in a carry-on bag. When we flew to Marrakesh, we flew from Philadelphia. We had a layover in London. We had to change airports. And we had to go from Heathrow to Gatwick. And I really thought it'd be fun to stop by downtown London in between, so I took the train. And it was raining in London, surprise, surprise. Took the train downtown, had a cup of coffee, had a croissant. We weren't hungry enough, I don't think, to have a full English breakfast. Then we took the train back out to Gatwick. And off we went. It's kind of a fun little jaunt, beginning to the Moroccan adventure. Pretty good. Again, it looks a lot contrastier in the photo, but I think in real life it looks better than if I had done something too similar to the photo. I think sometimes taking liberties based off of an emotional response and your own memories is sometimes worth it, which is an interesting thing, I think, for me to say, because I work in the film industry usually when I'm not painting miniatures for fun. And so I work photographing real things, real people, except when I guess I'm working on green screen stages, but it's otherwise real things. Where was I going with this? Yeah, I forget what I was talking about. I work in the film industry, and I think that I photograph so many real things, and they look so real, and just like that, just like this reference image, it looks so real. But many times when I'm starting work on a film, I pull up paintings, and I use those as visual references more than I do other films sometimes, because I think that when you have to process something and then put it onto paper like a painter would, then I think there's sometimes more emotion that comes through in an unfettered way. And that's not to say that doesn't happen in film, because it happens all the time in film. That's what I do. I'm a cinematographer, and I work with colorists and visual effects people, and that's a huge part of our job. But I think basing it sometimes on paintings, because they take those liberties, is interesting and a nice starting point. Or looking at like animations or things like that. Again, something where somebody started with a truly blank page and then went and made something from that. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. It looks a little tanner than the reference, but I'm kind of okay with it. You know what? Maybe I'm not okay with it. I'm going to add a little bit more red back in there. This time I'm going to do a bit of a wash. So what that means is I'm going to add more water and just I'm going to get the white out of this brush. Add more water and to this red so that it's really watered down. And I'm going to test it over here first. Make sure. Yeah, it's going to do what I want. So see how that just kind of pinks it up? Because it's basically transparent. So instead of using white to lighten the red, I'm using water to make it kind of a transparent red that will fill in some gaps for me. Yeah. My stomach's doing all sorts of things. I don't know if you can hear it. Since I'm putting so much water into this, see, yeah, that's nice. That's that red tone. So yeah, I started with like a warm reddish kind of deep wash, and then I lightened it up with these tans, and now I'm kind of taking it back into that red world. If it's too red, I think it'll look a little too cartoonish, and I don't want that. As much as I do want to take some artistic liberties based on my own memories, I also don't want it to look silly. I see that my friend who told me that I should do this here has liked this. Her name is Brenna Perez. You guys should all go follow her and watch her live TikToks as well. She does this a lot more than me. Brenna Perez. She probably doesn't talk about Morocco as much as I do, though. She has more interesting and up-to-date political information, if that's what you're here for. All right, that's nice. Yeah, that's that color. Hi, Brenna. I did not know your dad was born in Morocco, actually, Brenna. That's kind of cool. Alright, I feel like this color is nice, but it's very, since I added all that water, it's pretty wet. And so I don't want to do too much to it just now. I'm going to let it dry. It's not going to take very long. I'm going to come back to the door. So this is that door. Again, it kind of looks like a black square, but I don't want to add red into it, so I'm not going to add any sort of like red or yellow or warm tan or anything like that. What I'm going to do is just have this pure white. Go all the way over here in the corner so I don't mix it up. Make sure my brush is dry. Look at this nasty thing. Let's see. Yeah, I have used this like little white, used to be kind of white piece of plastic to it slowly gets loaded up and loaded up and loaded up, and then I'll scrape it off, and then it just happens again. Okay, so now I'm actually going to do a little more dry brush effect. So brush is still a little wet, so it's going to be a pseudo dry brush. I have to go real light, and I'm just going to get a little bit of white. I'm going to get to a point where it's just, you'll see, it's just a little bit on the edge of the brush. It's just on the edge of the bristles. I'm going to take the door. Maybe I'll zoom in for this. How about that? See if I can do this. Click, click. That seems nice. Okay. So, start up here where you won't really see it in case I put too much white on the brush. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, I spent all this time making all these little rivets and things on this door, and they're based on the actual door if you zoom in. But they kind of only show up when you dry brush. It's kind of this magical moment. You can see that's after I've brushed it, and that's where you don't. Let's see. How do I accept a guest request? Maybe this button? Brenna! Hello. I'm doing well. On this Friday night. It's a lot less late over here in Portland than it is in New York. It's 6:37. How's your Friday going? Oh. Uh-huh. I don't know. I think I'm having a good time. But I guess it's going well. I spent like all day trying to figure out all of this streaming stuff, and I don't know how, but I just downloaded. We were talking the other day. I just downloaded the TikTok Studio thing, and it just let me stream, even though I don't think that I meet any of the requirements for it. The button said click it, so I did, yeah. So I was like, it's either now or never. So here we are. On the eve of our demise, I shall make a doorway into the rest of our demise. Okay, so there's the door. Boom. We'll zoom out a little bit again. Big and wide. Okay, so here's this door. There's that door. And I have in this little box, I printed out some little covers for this. So I'm gonna put those on there. And I printed out some extra ones in case I messed it up. And let's see. Oh, tell me about it. Okay. Is it still there now? It's still there. Everything is here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I have a button where I click test audio, and I see it there, and I can hear myself now. But I don't really hear. I mean, there's an echo because I know that there's a delay, so it sounds like an echo, and it's a big echo. It's like boom, boom. Like it's not that bad. Okay, it's something else. Okay, so it might be. Let me just if I turn this down. Uh, now do you hear the echo? Is it gone? It's gone. Yeah, it's still there. Huh. 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 Do you think it's? I will keep talking. Da, 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 diddly, diddly, did. Okay, so the way that I have it set up is I have OBS. I'm running everything through OBS, and OBS is it has two microphones, and maybe that's partly why, but I muted one of them and it's still we're still hearing things. Um, let me actually okay, now is it gone? Is it gone now? Still there, still there. Okay. Uh So what I have, how I have it set up is that OBS has it monitoring out to a false, um, false audio line, uh, and then TikTok Live is picking up the false audio line as the input. Uh-huh. Instead of, yeah, that makes sense. Although I'm also technically streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now, which is interesting because I actually don't think I don't think anyone is watching anything other than the TikTok Live. I've spent all this time making everything work simultaneously. Well, I'm very sorry, I guess, to everyone who's been hearing this awful echo. Okay, now you can hear me? Okay. Um, uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So if I turn on, I might go dark for a second or quiet for a second, I guess, because I'm going to turn off the audio. Actually, I'll turn it on in. I'll switch the audio in TikTok Live first. I've got all sorts of things. There's a GoPro here. There's a GH5 up there. Let's see. Okay, so now do you just hear me? Worse. Yeah. Okay. So this is through TikTok. Uh, oh, yeah, guess that works. Thanks for everybody for listening to all of this fun stuff. And just so everyone knows what you're in for here, we're going to take this. These are LEDs. We're going to wire all this up. and then this is going to be put into this picture frame. We're going to hang it up on the wall. It's also bad on YouTube. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Let's see. I have to do. It's Oddplot. Podplot. Oh, thanks so much. You're probably my first subscriber. Hey, hey. Okay, I guess I should keep talking so Brennan knows if things are working or not. Let's see. I have. Maybe I'll uncheck that button. Okay, so who knows if it's working or not? Brendan will come back and tell us. The tech wizard. On YouTube? Oh, that's lovely. Okay. Well, let's see. Output. Well, maybe I'll just kill the YouTube because if it's just not working. When you are in OBS, do you put do you open up the sources in sources? Do you put the audio there as well, or do you just leave it in the audio mixer? Do you have to put it in both? It seems to go through. Like TikTok is getting all of the mics, even though they're not in the sources, they're just in the mixer. Ooh, I have an idea. God. Oh, hi. Hey there. Hi. God on a Friday night. Hi, God. Let's see. There's one that I have a plugin running that maybe is doing something funky. Doot, 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 doot. Okay. Okay. I turned off this plugin and maybe it's better. Maybe not. I don't know. But I had a plugin because there was a sync delay. So I had to turn this thing on. Now it's back on. And it sunk up this stuff because, let me tell you, well, you know, but all syncing everything is no fun. Is the music also echoing, or is it just my voice? Excuse me. How do I see? Oh, okay. Oh, how do I? Oh, interesting. Audio mixer. Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, question though, when I skip all of my OBS stuff and I change it to only the, let's see, I'll do just the line in. Hi, nope, nope, nope. Okay, so this is bypassing OBS entirely. But it's there. Still there. Okay. Yeah. On OBS, I have that fixed it? It's good. It's good. Okay. So now I'm just going straight. Oop, I did what you were saying. I just went straight from there, but I turned off. Okay, let me try one thing. Doodly doodly doodly. Okay. Now is it still bad? Is it good? Did it still good on TikTok? Okay. How about this? We're just gonna stop the YouTube one because nobody's on there anyway.